ההרצאה האחרונה לפני הפסקת הקפה היא של דוקטור ג'רלדין אונט מחברת ג'נטון הצרפתית, שהיא החברה הרביעית שתציג את הישגיה בתחום הטיפול הגנטי. דוקטור אונט היא מנהלת פיתוח בחברת ג'נטון, שהיא חברה אקדמית צרפתית ללא מטרות רווח, המקדישה את מחקריה לריפוי מחלות נדירות. דוקטור אונט אחראית על הפיתוח הקליני של התרופות, אחראית על הניסויים הקליניים למחלות נדירות של החברה, לרבות מחלת הדושן. דוקטור אונט, פליז.
First, I would like to thank the organizer to invite me to present today our gene therapy product developed by Genethon. And so Genethon is a non-profit patient organization, and we are dedicated to rare diseases, and we develop gene therapy approach, and we try to move all this approach to the clinics, and after we find partners to develop and to move into the clinic. So for this program, we work with Sarepta. So you are now familiar with the gene therapy product, but so you will see here it's the microdystrophin designed by George Dixon from the Royal Holloway Hospital. So he designed a new microdystrophin product with a optimized sequence, and as for the other product, we selected muscle and heart specific promoter, and you will see it's different promoter, and our promoter is a SPC 5.12, but it's also specific to muscle, heart, and diaphragm. You will see later on the results. And we also produce several products, and we try both the AV8 and AV9 capsids. And for the development, we move ahead with the AV8 capsid because we get better results. And so I will present to you today the result of our preclinical program. So we perform several studies in dogs, MDX mice, and also MDX rats, and we will move to the clinic next year. So first, I would like to share with you the preclinical result in the dog model, the golden retriever models, and I will provide you with some safety and efficacy data after one IV administration of the gene therapy. So here it's a summary, the design of the preclinical study. So we injected the young GRMD dogs, so 2 months old GRMD dogs, with AV8 product. We perform one IV injection, and as you can see, we tried 2 doses. So the first dose was 2E13, and the second dose was 1E14 Vg per kilo. We had 3 different groups, so 2 groups where the dogs were followed up 8 months post-injection, and we maintained 2 dogs for long-term in order to look after the long-term expression of the product. And so 1 dog is still alive after more than 4 years of follow-up. And for all the others, we sacrificed the animals after 8 months. So all the dogs were injected between 2 months of age or 2.5 months. So here you can see the curve of the clinical score. So the clinical score is a composite score based on several criteria. So dysphagia, including dysphagia, breathing, muscular strength, and general activity of the dogs. And so unhealthy dogs should be at 100%. And we perform weekly clinical examination on these dogs. And you can see after treatment, so in red you have the untreated group, and you can see that 1 dog performed very well, even if it's untreated, but it can happen because the phenotype is not always homogeneous. So, but if you look at the treated groups, so in green you have the lowest dose group, and you can see that it's pretty similar to the untreated groups, but as soon as we get 1E14 dose, you can see in blue all the dogs who are performing well with the long-term follow-up dogs still alive after more than 4 years. So the score is around 80% for the last dog, and for the other, it's the mean is between 60 and 70%. Here you can see some result of the muscular biopsies of this dog. So here it's for one dog at the highest dose, 1E14 Vg per kilo. So it's, the results are performed by immunostaining, and you can see the results. So on the top of the slide, on your left, you have the muscle biceps femoris biopsies before injection, so you can see nothing. And you have on the right, on the top of the slide, an healthy dog. So you can compare between the non-injected and the healthy dog. And so here you have the result 3 months post-injection, 8 months, and 14 months post-injection. So as you can see, there is expression at 3 months. There is already a nice expression of microdystrophin with, depending on the site where you perform the muscle biopsy, you can have between 50 to 80, more than 80% of microdystrophin expression, positive fiber in the muscles. And if you look at 8 months, it's around, still around 80, more than 80%. And 14 months post-injection, we still have an expression between, around 40% in these dogs. And after, if we continue to follow up the dogs, so 27 months post-injection, so the same dogs, we still have a huge amount of positive fibers expressing microdystrophin. So in one muscle, in the vastus lateralis, you can see 60% of expression, and in another muscle on the left, you have 38% of dystrophin expression. So after injection, we can see a long-term expression and probably long-term efficacy of the product. Here, this table summarizes the expression of the microdystrophin. So you have your three groups of animals. And the first column are about skeletal muscles. So it's a mean of 40 biopsies. And you can see that you have a range of efficacy between 20% to more than around 40% in skeletal muscle at the high dose. And interestingly, you can see afterwards, after the heart, the expression in the heart and in the diaphragm. And as you can see, our product is also expressed in heart and diaphragm with positive fibers around 10% in the heart, and with higher also expression in diaphragm in some biopsies. So we are really confident that our product will be also targeting the heart and the diaphragms. So here the slide summarizes the absence of cellular immune response against the transgene, which is also important. And you can see on the top of the slide an interferon gamma ELISpot test. And before injection and 4 months and 8 months after injection, there is no immune response against the microdystrophin. Below you have the transient humoral immune response again, so it was not observed in all dogs, so it was not observed at the low dose, but 3 dogs presented a transient humoral immune response against the microdystrophin, but without any impact on the clinical parameter. So here I would like to present you a short video about the dog. So I hope it will work. do not have the mice. Thank you. I'm sorry. It will come, just a bit long. Yeah. So here you can see an untreated dog. So he cannot cross the barrier, of course. So he has a lot of weakness in his hind limb, and even when you call it, he cannot cross the barrier. He still has some strength in the upper limb, but not in the hind limb. So here the dog's 7 months old after 7 months old dog, so 6 months, 5 months after injection, and at the high dose, you will see here an untreated dog, this one, and then the treated dog who will arrive after, who is able to cross the barrier and to catch the ball. And here you have two treated dog treated at the high dose, 7 months and 9 months old dog. So 5 months and 7 months post-injection. And this is very important because usually GRMD dogs are not able to be on their inline. And here you have 9 months old dog. So this one was not treated. And when they are treated at 19 and 21 months, so with a long-term follow-up, you can see it improves. Again, after a few months, it continues to improve. This one is, it can cross, but it's not the same. And this dog presented an accidental fracture of the left forelimb at 4 months, and you can see after, at 9 months, he completely recovered. Yeah. He's able to maintain his hind limb. Okay. So just the conclusion on the GRMD dogs part. So we can see that the IV delivery of an AAV8 microdystrophin product is safe and well tolerated. And we've seen also robust expression of the microdystrophin in skeletal muscles. We can see also that this expression is sustained and rescue muscle function and structure up to 27 months post-injections. And there is no cytotoxic immune response to the transgene and the systemic administration, so maybe a therapeutic alternative approach for majority of DMD patients. So after this result in the GRMD dog model, we move ahead with another model, the DMD rat model, and we also perform a preclinical study. Here you have the study plan. So we have 2 groups of animals sacrificed 3 months post-injection and 6 months post-injection. And as you can see, this time we perform several doses, so 4 different doses from 1E13 to 1E13 to 1E14 Vg per kilo, with 6 animals per group. And we also have, of course, the healthy rat to compare and the DMD rat not injected, the control group. So we treated also a rat at 2 months of age, and we follow several parameters. And here you can see the curve of the body weight. So in black you have the wild type model, the normal rat, and then you have by different colors, you have the different doses, and you can see that the vector has no negative impact on the growth, and regardless of the vector dose, the weight in the treated rat was superior to the rat treated with the vehicle, so with no treatment. And this as soon as after 3 weeks post-injection. In terms of CK levels in this rat, so you can see there is a dose-dependent improvement of CK levels. So in black you have the wild type rat, and on the left, and the second group, it's DMD rat treated with a vehicle, so with no treatment, with a placebo if you want. And after, you have a dose-dependent improvement of CK level between 1 E13 Vg per kilo to 1 E14, and 1 E14, it's clearly quite the normal CK levels. So the maximum significant improvement was observed at the highest dose. But interestingly, if we look at the force grip response, so it's a test we perform in rats, and you can see here the absolute maximum force grip response and the relative force grip response. And here there is a dose-independent improvement in the 4 vector-treated group, and is still significant at 6 months for the 2 lowest dose. So it seems after 3E13 we reach a plateau and we are not able to improve with the highest dose. So probably we will have a lower dose to use in clinic. So. And here you have the Western blot analysis of the microdystrophin expression, and there is also a clear detection of the protein in all this muscle analyzed. So we analyzed the four muscles, and whatever the dose and the timing, we observe an expression of the dystrophin, and you can see also in the heart and diaphragm. And again, we see a maximal expression of the protein as soon as we reach 3E13 Vg per kilo. We look also after the immune response, and again, there is no anti-MD1 cellular immune response detected after 3 or 6 months post-injection in the rats. So again, the IV injection of our AAV8 microdystrophin product is safe and well tolerated, and we've seen a robust expression in all skeletal muscles. And at 3 and 6 months post-injection, we have a dose-dependent increase in microdystrophin fibers in rat, treated with dose up to 3E13. So this does result in a high expression by Western blot analysis with more than 90% of positive fibers. We've seen also a sustained improvement in the grip-4 test and in fatigues also, and it starts at the 1E13 Vg per kilo dose, and it's confirmed with higher dose. So the systemic administration is really encouraging. So in terms of clinical plans, so we do not yet start the clinical trial. We think to start beginning of next year. But before to start this clinical trial, we've initiated a natural history study for DMD, and this trial will be a lead-in phase before the gene therapy trial. So the patient will be enrolled in this lead-in phase for 1 year, and they will be treated afterwards by the gene therapy product. So far, we initiated this study in Europe, in UK and France, and we plan to enroll 30 patients. The study duration will be between 6 months to 18 months, so depending when we will start the gene therapy trial. And the primary objective is to assess the disease course using the standardized and disease-appropriate evaluation we will use in our gene therapy trial. And we will then record the baseline period for all the patients, and before to move to the first-in-man clinical study. And so for this project, we are collaborating with Sarepta. So I would like to thank you for your attention, and if you have any question, we'll be pleased to take it. Yeah. Can you repeat? I will move here. Okay, so we do not yet start our clinical trial, and we are...
Repeat the question.
Repeat the question. So your son would like to participate in our trial, is it correct? Yeah. So far, we are currently writing the clinical protocol. We do not know yet exactly what will be the type of population we will target, but probably we will target also young patients as the other gene therapy trial ongoing. So I do not know yet if we will target non-ambulant patients. I think the first eligible population should be the ambulant patient, as the other trial today are enrolling. So unfortunately, I think he will be not the first one to be enrolled in the trial. We will start with an ambulant population, but it's, as it has been said before with the other speakers, we also are facing product issues, because the dose is based on the weight, so we need to be able to produce enough product also for adult patients, and we need to improve also the scalability and the yield and all this for the production, and demonstrate the efficacy in an ambulant population is also easier in terms of endpoint than in a non-ambulant, where we will have to target probably the heart or the upper limb. And today, exploring the upper limb function, it's much more complicated than the lower limb with the North Star, with the 6-minute walk test. So that's why also most of the trials start with ambulant population. It's just a matter of feasibility and ability to demonstrate efficacy with products.
Thank you.
I think everybody is waiting for the coffee break.
Thank you.